Hey everyone. So today we've got another podcast type episode with Mahad, who's from Block3 Finance, where him and his team specialize in crypto related taxes. This is actually our third time talking. And if any of you are interested in checking out the first two episodes, I'll leave a link to them in the video description. Besides that, though, if any of you are interested in working with Mahad for your crypto taxes or taxes in general, use the promo code Crypto for Canadians when emailing him at inquiry@block3finance.com and you'll get a free 30-minute consultation. So thank you, Mahad, for being here today. And Mahad, it's been a while since we last did one of these podcasts. What has Block3 Finance been up to?
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoy these podcasts. Given that it's our third one, I feel like we're past getting to know each other and what the community needs. In terms of what Block3 has been up to, wow, it's been a while since we last spoke. So one of the personal things that I made a mission on is to publish a book, which will be available in late January, February. And this book is going to be talking about crypto investments, the risks, the analysis, the regulations from different jurisdictions, countries particular, and how they treat crypto taxes and accounting standards and stuff like that. In terms of the firm, we've grown to 39 employees now full-time.
Wow,
Thank you so much. And those accountants are both in Canada, in Singapore, and Dubai. And there's been a lot of requests in terms of, Mahad, what can you help me with? Mahad, looking to move myself to a different jurisdiction, offshore accounting. I want to start a mining company in Africa. There's so many different inquiries that we've had over the last 12 months that we've been busy with. And what's more important that I want to share today is that we've been nominated by Bitcoin.com as the leading accounting firm for crypto users. So if you go to bitcoin.com/taxes, you'll see all the crypto accounting companies, and Block3 Finance is ranked number one in Canada and the US. So Bitcoin.com has asked us to write publications for the community in order for them to be able to understand how NFTs work, how crypto betting works, what's like taxation in Germany, the UK, Canada, stuff like that. So we've done really, really well in terms of building, as well as sharing the knowledge that we've received from the IRS, from Revenue Quebec, from Canada Revenue, in terms of making sure that the community is aware of all these changes that is being pushed down the pipeline by Prime Minister Carney now and President Trump, in terms of making sure that everybody pays their fair share of taxes. So that's what we've been up to. In bear market, you build, but it hasn't been bear market for the crypto markets. But when it's off season for accountants, this is what I've taken advantage of in terms of building the firm, in terms of helping the community get to know what's required from them when bear market comes or when they decide to sell. So that's what we've been up to.
That's pretty awesome. You're writing a book. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I decided to share a lot of my journey over the past 15 years being in crypto. From the first time that I decided to get into crypto back in 2011 on April, when Bitcoin was only $1.11. So $1.11 to where it is today, I've learned a lot, and I don't think that I'm comparable to other accountants that are still trying to figure out how to do crypto reports. I've already figured that out 14 years ago, so I'm well advanced, and this is what I decided to do for the community.
Not only are you an OG in the crypto space, but I guess you're also an OG in crypto accounting and tax.
No, I appreciate that. A lot of people have said that over the time, and praises, thank yous are very much appreciated, because when you put in the effort and when you see a vision, I tend to capture the moment. So this is one of the best moments in my life that I've been able to capture.
Awesome. Well, congrats on your firm's achievements. And why do you think that other accountants out there are lacking this knowledge in the space? I mean, don't you think that they think it's important?
My personal opinion, crypto is very important. Digital assets is very important. Back in 1994, 1999, when internet boom was happening, if you look at Canada Post's balance sheet, they lost 23% of their revenue, gross revenue that year. Why? Because people started using email. So nobody was using Canada Post to send mails anymore. So when I saw that, and I said to myself, man, dude, paper money is going to be replaced one day. Accounting is going to be complex. But, accountants, they continue to do the same thing as everybody else. When you go to a financial advisor, they'll tell you don't get into crypto. If you ask them questions about crypto, they will tell you, I don't know what you're talking about. And this is what accountants have been saying. But, I kind of want to highlight 5 different narratives why accountants don't really want to get into understanding crypto. The very first one is that the understanding of crypto valuation and the accounting standards, there is a gap. The gap is that, when you're looking to figure out, is it commodities, intangible assets, they struggle in terms of distinguishing. Second is that, is it a business income? Is it capital gains for tax purposes. They tell you go to Coinly. Coinly will decide, and then they just plug it in. And that's one of the biggest things that Canada Revenue and Revenue Quebec loves, because Coinly always tells you that you are in capital gains. You're not a trader. But otherwise, Revenue Quebec and CRA have been coming down on individuals by deeming them as business income as opposed to capital gains. So over the last 12 months, I would say that I've done about 300 plus audits for accountants that made a mess of individuals' tax returns, where I've been able to go back to CRA and try to apply for taxpayer relief in most cases, and making sure the person is not being charged for tax evasion, even the fact that, the accountant relied on Coinly report, which is not accurate. The third thing is that why accountants struggle is understanding record keeping and transaction tracking. So they don't know on-chain. They're used to looking at receipts. Does the receipt match the credit card statement? But when it comes to transaction tracking on blockchain, it's difficult, whether different networks, Tron, like you can take a USDT from ERC20 to USDT on Tron network or Solana network. They don't have that understanding. So there is a big gap. That's what Block3 has been able to distinguish. And the fourth thing is that understanding the audit and the risk assessment for individuals that are crypto holders. When I talk about risk assessment, like, hack, understanding the audits, how to be able to distinguish crypto balances, reconciliation, who's the owner, the authenticity of those transactions, controlling is basically unfamiliar territory for them. And because of that, they tend to just say, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to learn it. I don't want to help you. And then, of course, the final one that I would say that why accountants really lack expertise in crypto is understanding the navigation of the regulation and compliance. So Canada Revenue has been changing the rules. Ontario Securities Commission, the Canadian Securities Commission. To give you an example, on April 29, okay, one day before tax deadline, Revenue Quebec changed the foreign holdings for over $100,000, the form, and how they want you to report. Before, you could just list one line that says crypto. Now they want you to list all the assets, whether if you have Polygon, they want to know how much Polygon you have. Solana, they want to know how much Solana coins you have, USDT, stuff like that. So because it's evolving and the compliance, accountants don't really want to keep up to date. And because they don't want to keep up to date, they tend to say, no, I don't want to help you. I don't want to do it. So that's why Block3 has been predominantly been growing like a hockey stick. And I would say that over the past 12 months to 24 months, we've now grown to over 3,000 customers and going strong. And I promise you by 2026, by December 31st, we'll break 10,000 customers, because crypto holders are growing. They need more help. And there's little help that's in the marketplace at the moment, because they need to get their taxes done correctly. Canada Revenue is revamping. They're putting more auditors on the scene. Revenue Quebec is doing that. The IRS is coming out. The Clarity Act is coming up in the next month or two. All those things are going to allow individuals to come to an accountant that understands crypto, and they're going to say, Mahad, I need to do this, and can you firm help me? And then they go to another firm. Can you firm help me? When they say no, then there's more opportunities for companies like Block3 in order to grow in the marketplace. So that's my take, and this is why other accountants are lacking knowledge, where I've been in crypto since 2011. A lot of our accountants are in crypto, so they understand the need and why what we do is very important in the marketplace.
You're going to be a very hard person to reach at the end of 2026.
If you ask our customers, they'll tell you Mahad is very prompt. Kevin is very prompt. We usually get back to everybody within 4 hours average. The most that it has ever been is when there's a long weekend and nobody's in the office. But typically, we get back to everybody within the same day. And there'll be a lot of people that would attest to that. Just give me a try.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's great to hear that you'll still be around for your customers or clients, even with the 10,000 foreseeable clients that you have. So that's great stuff. All right, so let's get into some of the questions that the viewers have had. The first one is cashing out with an incorporation the same as without an incorporation for taxes? And can you elaborate with examples on personal versus incorporation?
Yeah, I like this question. And when the community asks this question, I want you to understand an individual is treated from an individual tax return, and they have 5 federal tax rates in Canada. Okay, so it goes from 15 all the way up to 53% marginal tax rate. And in saying that, when you're using an exchange using your name, let's say Wealthsimple has been one of the nightmares in terms of making sure that when they issue a tax slip is not correct. And Canada Revenue has been asking a lot of questions for individuals using Wealthsimple. And the reason being is because the ACB is not correct. The adjusted cost base is not correct. The calculation of the fair market market value at the end of December, on December 31st, is not correct. So they're having a tough time, and they're revamping that. So if you're using from a personal tax standpoint, you have to understand that it goes on your marginal rate of tax. Okay, what are your employment income, other income, crypto income? They look at your taxable income on line 2600, and that's where the tax returns and the taxes payable is calculated as. Now, when you look at from incorporation is treated as a separate entity. It has nothing to do with your personal tax rates. The corporation tax rates are better. If you're a day trader, you're able to take advantage of the small business deduction, which is, the first $500,000. Small business deduction, the tax rate on a corporation is 12.2%. I would say that 99.99% of the individuals are, with the exception of crypto companies and miners and high net worth individuals. They have a different tax rate when it goes to the corporation, going up to 36%. But when you're looking at from an incorporation standpoint, at the time of death, individual dies, but a corporation continues to live. That's the other benefit as well, by always having a corporation being a better route and paying the least amount of taxes. So this is the distinct difference between personal taxes and corporate taxes. That's what I would answer in terms of this question.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, more money is left inside the business so that you can compound that
over time. Yeah, correct.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So the second question is, I'm curious to know how the following transaction would be taxable. The goal of this transaction is to get BTC onto another chain. So here is the transaction. You basically sell Bitcoin for USDC. After, you're going to buy WBTC with that USDC. Later, you would then sell that WBTC back for USDC, and then finally buy actual Bitcoin with that USDC.
Mm-hmm. So that's a mouthful.
I know.
I was writing the point form, but based on what this individual is asking, is that you need to understand that in Canada, when you on-ramp, the legal tender that you're on-ramping is Canadian dollars. Anytime that you change from Canadian dollars to a coin, let's say USDC or USDT or BTC, USDC, USDT, BTC, they're all coins. Anytime you change from Canadian dollars to a coin, and then from a coin to another coin, is a transaction. It's a taxable transaction. So in answering that question, because you're doing BTC for USDC, and then from USDC, you're doing WBTC, and then USDC, and then swapping it back to the native BTC, because of all those transactions, it would be deemed as taxable transactions. And what's important, and this is something new as of 60 days ago, that Canada Revenue now is mandating every single individual who's in crypto. And when I was reading about a month ago, the data showed that now 10.1% of Canadians are in crypto. In the US is about 28%.
Oh,
so
wow.
that 10.1% of Canada's population that are in crypto, Canada Revenue wants you to have a crypto report every single year, even if you're a holder. And because of this, when you are a holder and one day you decide to sell, Canada Revenue is going to say, send me the crypto reports for the last 3 years so I can follow how many BTCs that you started off in 2021, 22, 23, 24. And if you're selling in 25 towards the bear market, which I feel like bear market is almost here, bull market is almost done. And because of that, whenever you're changing coins, it would be deemed as taxable. And when Canada Revenue asks for information, they don't just want you to send the information for that year. They want to follow when you started. What did you have beginning of the year? And what do you have at the end of the year? So you have to be careful in making sure that if you're using an accountant like us, like Block3, we'll make sure that we defend it. So the fee that you pay includes an audit service. So if CRA ever questions those crypto transactions, we would defend them at no cost to you. And this is the benefit of us, of you using Block3 to be able to do your crypto reports compared to other firms or softwares that tell you that they can do crypto reports, but when it's time to answer questions to the CRA, they're non-existent and their customer service is poor.
That's really interesting about the report that you now have to log all of your holdings. That's new. Like you said, 60 days ago?
60 days ago. And now I feel like this legislation passed. Nobody knows about it. And then what happens is during tax time, somebody would say to me, Mahad, I sold Bitcoin. Is that taxable? I would have to ask them, hey, do you have crypto reports that shows me all the purchases that you've made for those Bitcoins? The answer is always no. Mahad, I'm a holder. Why do I need crypto report? Well, Michael Saylor, who's also a holder, has these reconciliations to determine what fair market value is. So when you hear Michael Saylor's valuation is $34 billion, you better know that he's doing those crypto reports, the same thing that you're required to do to make sure that you understand what your fair market value and what your average cost is. Because people always say, oh, Michael Saylor's average cost is this. What's your average cost for your crypto? You don't know. So of course, this is where CRA is saying that you need that average cost, and those crypto reports will provide you with that information.
Okay, awesome. So the third question is, should I file an adjustment if I missed reporting a small profit under $100 for one asset? Is there any risk of being audited after the adjustment?
It says one asset. So if the person has more than one asset, then of course, even if you have one asset and the small profit is under $100, you have to do the adjustment. So let me give you an example in the legacy world, okay? They say that if you have money in a bank account and it produces interest for the money that you have of $19 or $2, just because the tax slip is not issued, the CRA still wants you to report that. So the answer to your question would be that even if it's under $100 for one asset, you still have an obligation to report that. So if you're audited and you don't have that information or you haven't reported that information, the CRA will assess penalties and interest for unreported income for that asset.
Okay, awesome. So play it safe, just report it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the fourth question is, how does CRA decide if I'm an investor or a day trader? Why should active traders consider incorporating?
Yeah, I like this question, and I get asked this question every single time. And the reason why I get asked this question every single time is that we all go in to buying Bitcoin, and then we see the narrative change, and then we follow the narrative. We follow Twitter to the T. Like the other day, the Liberty Finance coin came out, everybody was buying it. But because there's a lot of uncertainties, the difference between an investor and a day trader is usually determined, and when CRA is assessing it, they don't look at the intention. The intention you being buying a coin and holding the coin, they don't look at that. They look at the activity. They look at the transaction, the CSV file. And the fact that you might have a lot of transactions, whether it's buy, which is fantastic, you need to show the crypto report to show those buys, the intention. Now, if you're swapping between coins and the quantity of those trades is about 10 trades per month of swapping, the CRA will challenge you that you're doing a business income as opposed to being an investor. Okay, so that's considered a day trader. And because of that, it's better to incorporate. And why is it better to incorporate? So earlier on, one of the questions that you asked is, Mahad, should I incorporate or is it personal taxes? If by you incorporating and you being a day trader, being deemed as a day trader, you can take advantage of the small business deduction. So what does that mean? That means that the first $500,000 of gains or income or whatever that you have in terms of net profit, that tax rate is 12.2% as a day trader. Now, if you're an investor, it has to be deemed as capital gains. And capital gains, now the first 50% is exempt. The remaining 50%, it goes as an investment income, which is at a higher tax rate. And if you're doing it personally, the tax rate on a personal level is between 15 to 53%. So depending on your other income, your ordinary income, when it gets added, that's how CRA will charge you taxes, your taxes payable. And having an incorporation gives you a protection, the protection of defending against an audit, managing costs, paying the least amount of taxes. If life is short, that means that a deceased person, everything is not deemed, or in a corporation, everything stays the same. And you just do a corporate structuring because those assets belong to the corporation as opposed to belonging to the individual, right? So there's a lot of advantages by having an incorporation and incorporating your business and making sure that you do all your activities, your crypto activities in the corporation as opposed to doing it personally. I hope that gives you a little bit of clarity.
Yeah, it does. So there's not only a financial gain to it, but there's also the other intangibles. Like you said, the incorporation continues to live on even after, if you pass away or something happens to you, the corporation will still continue to live.
Exactly. And then let's say if you had a will and the beneficiary of that corporation is your mother or your wife or your child, because those assets belong to the corporation, it's easy to do structuring as opposed to having to pay 53% personal tax rate. But corporation provides you that layer of protection and to be able to mitigate cost, that you don't have to deem those crypto as deemed disposition, but rather the corporation continues to have those holdings.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for answering that. Now, the fifth question is, where do you think crypto taxation is headed in the next 5 years?
To give you my personal opinion and what Canada Revenue has done, the Canadian Securities Administration, and as well as the Ontario Securities Commission, and what the FTC and the US side have been doing is that they've been regulating those exchanges that are going to stay in Canada, particularly like CoinSquare, Newton, and so forth. So those exchanges, I believe that in the next 5 years, they'll be issuing a tax slip. They're just trying to figure out how to do it at the moment. And I've been asked to provide consultation for a couple of crypto exchanges in Canada, particularly. And in the next 5 years, I believe that they will issue tax slips. CRA will become good at auditing on-chain. Right now, what they're doing is that audit process takes about 8 months to 18 months. But I feel like in the next 5 years, crypto audits will be quicker by the CRA. And the third thing that I just wanted to share is that it's already happening, but there'll be a global information sharing. So that will close all the loopholes between individuals. So for example, if you have an offshore account in the Caymans, I feel like CRA, Canadian government, and the Cayman Islands will be able to do sharing of information in order to close loopholes. There are miners right now that are in Mozambique, in Nigeria, in Botswana. Those information will be able to be passed between those two government agencies in order to avoid tax evasion or tax frauds and stuff like that, unreported income. And the final point that I will say that in the next 5 years, there'll be strong records and corporations are the best for defense. And what I mean by that is that when you have a corporation, the chances of an audit is less than if you're trading or that you have holdings in a personal capacity. Because what happens is that if you're staking, if you are receiving forks or you're receiving airdrops or anything like that, because there's no tax slips reported to your social insurance number, or if they are and there is a crypto scam, and if you're writing it off, CRA will always question why you're writing off $100,000, even though you have all the substantiated documentation. Where in a corporation, because the balance sheet shows your profitability for that year, it's better to be able to have the corporation so that way that it's better to defend it should anything happen. Now, if the corporation that you have is a general investment, you can put so many layers of different types of investment within that corporation, so it doesn't seem like it will trigger an issue with the CRA, right? So you can buy a property in that corporation, you can buy gold bars, silver bars, you can play in the options, you can play in the stock market. Of course, you can do your crypto holdings in the same corporation. So the more activities that you have and the different types of asset class that you have within the same corporation, the chances of an audit will be less compared to a personal capacity.
Okay. Well, that's really interesting. I didn't know that. All right. Well, let's take a look at the next question. The next question is, what if I trade only on decentralized exchanges with no slips?
This is a popular question that we get all the time, especially individuals that are asking for free consultation. Hyperliquid, for example, is a decentralized exchange, and the transactions are there, but they don't issue a tax slip. No exchanges issues a tax slip right now. CRA still requires you to do full reporting. And how do you do the full reporting? You cannot guess. You cannot estimate. You cannot put the number that you feel like. CRA expects you to have a crypto report, and you need to maintain that crypto report for 6 years, should the CRA ask. Sometimes they ask you for 10 years if they sense that there is a tax fraud or unreported income. So there are cases where right now that I'm working on voluntary disclosures. Those voluntary disclosures, the CRA, part of the voluntary disclosure, as your accountant, I will tell you that we need to make sure that the last 10 years is squeaky clean in terms of your income, because CRA, in order to accept those voluntary disclosures, they want to make sure that you have all the supporting documents. So CRA expects you to do full reporting. The second thing that I will say with decentralized exchange is that the on-chain data and the CSVs can be used as a proof, and the record keeping is key in terms of surviving an audit. So for example, when in 2022 the FTX issue happened, a lot of people didn't have, or Alex Machinsky's Celsius, a lot of people were not able, or Binance even, they were not able to get those record keeping, the CSV file. It's important to at least to showcase that you tried your best in terms of keeping records. So on Celsius, whenever you made a transaction, they sent you an email. I've been able to ask those individuals to send me those emails that I went on CoinMarketCap to figure out what the purchase price of Polkadot coin is and stuff like that. So I was able to put all those pieces together so that way I'm able to report all the income that they're supposed to report, and as well as making sure that if they do get audited, that I defended it. So CRA looks at good faith as a last objective, and good faith plays a role when you're saying that, listen, I tried my best to be able to have proper records. Unfortunately, these exchanges went down, and because they went down, here's what I have, and here's the best that I've done in making sure that I report all my income. So I've been able to defend that and been able to win a lot of cases with the CRA.
Well, that's awesome. That's interesting that you're able to win it on good faith. Who would have guessed?
Right. And I think where accountants struggle, in going back to my question earlier, is being analytical and looking at the bigger picture, right? So tell me what accountant will tell you, oh, FTX went down, Binance is no longer in Canada. Okay, well, I don't know how to report it. So go figure out how to report it. But us at Block3, we have different tools. We have different ways of obtaining that information to make sure that you're safeguarded. At the end of the day, a self-reporting system. A lot of individuals that I've spoken to, they just want the stress to go away. And if that's you, come to Block3 and we'll help you and we'll make sure that all that issue is resolved. Yes, it's a lot of work to go through emails, but we're willing to do that in order to make sure that your crypto report and that your tax matters are taken care of, as opposed to just you having to watch over your shoulder. Should this happen? Should that happen? Should this happen? So you don't need to worry about that if you come to Block3.
Awesome. And the last question is, what advice are you giving to your clients, knowing that the bull market or a bull market might be coming to an end, and what are planning opportunities to preserve wealth? In the last podcast, you said it's not what you make, it's what you keep.
As an accountant, I always read what other people are doing and what other people have done and what I've helped with a lot of people. Being in crypto for 14 years has blessed me for me to use it in the legacy world. And I've been helping a lot of people do the same, pay off their debts, pay off their school tuition, pay off their children's wedding, help them purchase a car, help them buy a home. I just want to give you a couple numbers. The average age for a Canadian who's in crypto is 28.6 years. Okay. So when you look at a 28-year-old, they don't have income to buy a house if they are asked to provide pay stubs for a mortgage. And if they're in crypto and they have enough to buy a home in Sudbury, Ontario, or in Calgary, Alberta, Moncton, New Brunswick, I've been able to help them make a deposit in order for them to be able to buy the home that they want. So because bull market is coming and a lot of people are selling, I've been able to educate our customers that there is, in life, there is a probable outcome and a predictable outcome. There are two types of income. A probable outcome is if a 2007, 2008 happened, or a COVID happened, where your life savings trimmed by 50%, which is what happened to a lot of people or more in 2007 and 2008 market crash. Do you want to be that person? If the answer is no, which I'm pretty sure the answer would be no, then why don't you take your income and put it in a predictable outcome? A predictable outcome might be, okay, put it in a TFSA in a GIC and wait for the bear market, the bottom of the bear market, and then go back in. How about you purchasing an infinite banking, a life insurance policy where you put the money in and you have a cash value, and you could use the cash value as a collateral loan and pay 0% tax. So this is what I've been able to help a lot of people. I would say that since January to now, a lot of people have been DCing out at the top. So when Bitcoin got to 124,000, 125,000, and Ethereum got to $4,900, a lot of people were cashing out and they were calling me and saying, Mahad, I understand the probable outcome and a predictable outcome. How can you help me put it in a predictable outcome? Because this is my life savings. I'm now trying to preserve. So when I need to go back into the market again, and it's a bear market, the bottom of the bear market, I have enough money for me to be able to buy more Bitcoin. And this is what I've been able to help a lot of people in terms of preserving wealth. That's one. And two, if you want to leave a generational wealth for your family, 75% of Canadians are living paycheck to paycheck. So how could you make sure that your family is well taken care of, that if life is short and something happens to you, what would it mean for your children? What would it mean for your family? How could you replace your income so that way that they can continue their lifestyle that they currently have? And if life is long, how could you access some of those wealth without you having to trigger a lot of taxes? And I've been able to talk to people about obtaining proper life insurance policies, a proper one, not just like what you go to someone and they sell you what you don't need. Trying to understand, me being a crypto accountant, how could I help you build wealth? Yes, you are going to pay taxes. Doesn't matter income that you go into, but how do you make sure that you reduce the taxes that you pay? And if a 2007 and 2008 happens, how are you safeguarding yourself? Because I firmly believe that the stock market is at the top. I firmly believe that crypto market is at the top, that bull market might finish within the next 60, 90 days.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? Do you have the proper guidance? Are you working with an advisor? Are you gaining the help that you need? Do you want to go back to Bitcoin at $25,000, $30,000? Like, right up and right down? Because that's what I did as a rookie. Now I'm a DJ because this is my fourth bull market. I'm an OG now. I've seen everything in crypto. This is my fourth bull market. If this is your first or if this is your second, please learn from somebody who knows, who's been there, to preserve your wealth. So that way that your wealth doesn't go back to zero, that you have to go back to work and work harder because inflation is going up, taxes is going up. So do you want to be that person? If not, then come and use the free consultation. I will help you. I will show you. I will create a customized solution for you. The team that I have are amazing. They know how to help an individual, and we're willing to help you and make sure that you're growing your wealth as opposed to going back and living paycheck to paycheck. I would never want anybody to go and live paycheck to paycheck. I want you to be able to have that wealth and utilize that wealth for the better of you and your family, and making sure that you can retire comfortably as opposed to having a tough retirement.
Awesome. So yeah, everyone, again, feel free to email Mahad at inquiry@block3finance.com and use the promo code Crypto for Canadians. And again, you'll get your free 30-minute consultation with Mahad. And Mahad, those are all the questions for today's episodes. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much, Crypto for Canadians. I enjoy it. I am happy to share my knowledge. And in a place where there's a lot of unknowns, I'm happy to know that you're doing an amazing work. I love your channel. I love what you do. And, I see the community are very much appreciative that when you do ask them certain things, that they're able to reciprocate and make this a fun podcast. So thank you so much.